Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Assessor webinar on benchmark updates 2025 and beyond. So this is on the 2025 updates and also the next schedule update for possibly 2030. This session is being recorded and will be available to you after. We'll be sending an email with the link to the recording so you can come back and review any of the topics covered today. First, I will pass it on to our head of market transformation, Mon, who will be doing some opening words. Over to you, Mon.
Hi, everyone. Very excited to be talking to you all today about the important updates that we're making to NABERS Energy, both on July 1st, but also the consultation we're doing on the next changes to NABERS Energy. So Clem and Suruchi are going to be taking you through that today. We have spoken to you about this project many times over the years, so looking forward to those that have had quite a lot of involvement in this project on their views, but I know also we always have new entrants to NABERS, so this may be the first time that you're hearing about it in detail as well. So if there's things that you don't understand or things that you would like more clarification on and you're not getting it in this webinar, there's always an opportunity to get in touch with us and talk to us about it more, particularly for the changes that Suruchi is going to be talking about, what happens after the 1st of July. We are doing a lot of consultation on that at the moment. So, you know, if you want us to come and talk to you individually, or you've got a group of people that you think would be really interested, very keen to hear more from you as well. So I'll head over to the acknowledgement of country. Sorry, just a second. We begin the session today by taking time to acknowledge that we meet today on many Aboriginal lands across Australia. I'm on Darkinjung land this morning, and we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and show our respect for elders past and present, and acknowledge any Aboriginal people joining us today. Thanks very much. Handing back to Clem.
Thank you, Mon. I'm presenting to you from the land of the Gadigal people. I'm Clement Allende. I'm the Technical Projects Manager in NABERS. And we also have with us today my colleague Suruchi, who's the Sector Expansion Manager, and we will be facilitating this webinar and covering all of today's topics. A bit of housekeeping. You do have all your microphones muted in this webinar, but there's the Q&A function, so you can use this at any time to post questions, which we will respond throughout the webinar. We'll also have some time at the end of the webinar after the presentation to cover a couple of questions as well there. And also, if you know of anyone having issues accessing the webinar, please ask them to send through an email to our mailbox. We are keeping an eye on that, so we can help them straight away. Okay, so jumping into our agenda for today. For this first part of the webinar, Suruchi will do a short intro into how emission factors are used in NABERS energy ratings, something that we have covered as well in past webinars, but it's always good to do a refresh for any new people in the audience. And also how our periodic updates to our benchmarks are structured. So she will then go through an update of the consultation process for 2030, something we have been working on for quite a while. So we'll walk you through what the outlook of this is so far based on what we have been hearing. Now, the second part of the webinar, I'll be talking about the upcoming changes to be implemented from July this year. I'll start by doing a refresher of what the 2025 benchmark update involves, with a short demo on the new set of prediction tools that are already available to download in our website. And finally, I'll go through some reminders of the other changes to be implemented from 1st July, not specifically related about emission factors, but our energy ratings in general. And this will be the phase out of the energy rating with green power results, as well as the updates to the renewable energy indicator calculations. So for the first part, now over to you, Suru.
Thank you, Clem. Good afternoon, everyone. Some of you would already know me if you've been involved in any of the news sector NABERS has recently expanded into in the last 4 to 5 years, like schools, warehouses, cold stores, and aged care. I've been involved in the expansion work for those sectors, or perhaps you would know me through L1 Audit. So, and nice to see you all in this webinar today. My name is Suruchi. I manage the expansion program at NABERS, and today I am here to take you through the work we've been doing as to evolve basically and update our NABERS energy benchmarking, a very crucial tool, which is in response to the pace of the decarbonization of the electricity grids throughout Australia. Now, first things first, I am trying to go back to my first slide there. Yeah. Okay. How do we compare energy use between buildings? So for NABERS energy tools, we use emissions as a metric that allows us to fairly compare the buildings in terms of environmental impact when normalized or neutralized for other factors like climate, hours, or anything else. Emission factors are the key here, and what we're doing here is basically comparing buildings by comparing predicted emissions as well as their actual emissions. So if the actual emission of building would be lower than the predicted emissions, the star rating turns up to be better as compared to if the actual emissions would be higher than the predicted emissions, which are how we calculate the algorithms to calculate those predicted emissions. So we compare electricity and gas in these energy ratings through emission factors. And as the grid starts to decarbonize, the emission factors keep changing. So what have we been doing to keep up the benchmark up to date? I think most of you already know that we have been doing some updates. So as the grid decarbonizes, to keep it relevant, we have been sort of started to update our emission factors since the last few years. In the past, we didn't do that before 2021 because the grid wasn't sort of decarbonizing at the same pace. There was barely any change in the electricity grid. But now, when the grids are decarbonizing at a faster pace in last few years, our National Steering Committee approved and we started updating the NABERS emission factors. And as an assessor, you already know that we did the first update in 2021 to accurately reflect those changing emissions so as to we continue to reward those buildings which use energy with lower emissions. So next update is what Clemente, my colleague, will talk to you about, the 2025, which is about to happen now in a month, basically from 1st of July. There will be the next update which will happen. So the big question is what happens now after the 2025 update? As the grids in the various states and territories in Australia continue to decarbonize further. And in some states, for example, SA, it's predicted that the grid could, get to 100% renewable by 2027. So as the grid continues to decarbonize, the electricity emissions start to go towards zero. And then the NABERS energy would no longer meaningfully compare the energy efficiency of buildings. What the NABERS tool has been doing so effectively, as in comparing the energy efficiency, is our core sort of a fundamental objective. And we want to continue for NABERS energy to do that. So all electric buildings could start getting 6 stars, and this would become, the NABERS ratings could essentially become a measure of whether a building has a gas or not. This means NABERS needs to start to move away from emission factors to compare electricity and gas. NABERS been consulting. I think you've been hearing some of those discussions in the past, sort of assessor webinars as well. And we have been consulting on what should happen next, how to compare electricity and gas. We have been hearing that we should change to an energy metric. So the metric which is mostly agreed on is that let's shift to an absolute energy metric, as in instead of comparing emissions, we compare energy in megajoules, where each unit of energy used in building is equal. So an equal comparison metric would provide slight benefit towards using electricity compared to gas. When we are saying an absolute energy metric, we are saying 1 unit of electricity is 1 unit of gas, keep them equal. So basically, it will start to then give a slight nudge towards electrifying, as in reducing the use of gas, I would say. We will be also looking into analyzing some of the other options with experts and our NSC, our National Steering Committee. For example, what is being used by other programs in Australia. And before we agree on that, it will be consulted very well with all of you as well before we, agree on an accepted comparison. On to my next slide. So I am here to talk to you about now what have we been doing in the past. I think you would have heard last year in one of the webinar which we conducted that we were already consulting on this topic with stakeholders, with industry owners, with portfolio owners. And we were getting some sort of mixed opinions on what should NABERS be doing for this update. So this year, what we did was we consulted directly with portfolio owners and we showed them what impact this change would have on their ratings. So we took basically their portfolios to them with details to show them what sort of impact it will happen on each sort of building as well. So we took two scenarios to them. We showed building owners the impact with using two options. So the actual changes could be seen on those two options. The first option, which is a bit slower, where the portfolio owners would see less impact or changes to their ratings. So the less ratings would move here and there. Most of them remain the same, but at the same time, they would see less reward for electrifying, basically less reward if they are moving away from gas or reducing gas in their buildings, gas usage. In this change would have to happen two times, at least two times. Basically, the buildings would remain, part of the buildings would remain on emission factors in 2030, and then beyond that, we would have to move it to energy metric, let's say in 2035. So it will be kind of like a phased change. But the second option is where the ratings would see more change, as in there'll be more drops in ratings, but there will be more jumps as well. They will see more reward, as in they would see a slight jump in ratings if they are reducing gas already. If they're already electrifying, they will see a reward from NABERS. Basically, if they are using gas efficiently from what their peers have been doing, if a similar sort of building is using less gas as compared to a similar sort of building should be using as an average, they would see a positive change. So one of the positive aspect of this option is that this change will be required to be implemented only once. So this change would happen at the moment we are proposing to 2030, but as on my next slide, 2030 was a chosen year because the previous feedback suggested, but that is the time frame as owners or portfolio owners would need to sort of make any changes to those buildings which will be impacted. So we just picked 2030 as to test the appetite of the customers. That year was chosen. And the purpose of consulting with these options, I would say, was not to test each detail, but to test where industry is heading. So whether this change towards moving away from gas and our change towards energy metric, whether that's accepted by industry. So that was the whole idea to do this consultation, to understand what are these portfolio owners doing. So we went to about 20 key portfolio owners in almost all sectors, mostly offices, shopping centers, but also in other sectors as well. And we tried to target the customers who are likely to see drops in their ratings with this change. And as you know, these both scenarios have also been included in our prediction tools, which are on website as well, which means stakeholders could go and play around and see what's happening or what the impact is on those ratings as well. So on my next slide, I'll show you, this is the example of what we took to the portfolio owners. We showed them the impact on their ratings. So the 2025 change is what you can see on the screen here. So this is a portfolio for 79 ratings. This is just an example portfolio. And 72 of the buildings would see no change. And then 6 of them in orange saw a drop. And then a couple saw sort of a positive change as well. Then we showed them what would happen if we went a slower sort of a shift, and you can see more buildings saw jump as well, and then more sort of saw drop as well. So this is a slower change, which will happen if implemented, it would have to happen at least 2 times. And then we also showed them the faster change. What would happen if we went fast? So when I'm saying fast, it's not really fast. It's still a nudge towards electrification. So in this case, you can say there is more impacts. As you can see, a few more ratings drop, but at the same time, you would notice that there are few more who have gained or have seen positive sort of jump as well, which is because the averages in each sector still remain the same. So we're not changing any averages. The statistics or the updates we will do would mean that the average rating still remains the same. So whatever is a 3-star in each sector would still remains the same. So what we would start to see is actually that the buildings use more gas than their peers see a small drop in their ratings, and specifically the sectors with more variability in the gas use. As in, if there is a sector where some buildings would use a lot of gas and some really little bit, that's where you will see more changes in the rating. So different sectors would also see different impacts. For example, data centers would see really zero impact, but maybe aged care or hotels, they see a little bit more impact comparatively. So moving on, I'm going to now take you through what have we heard from those key sort of portfolio owners. I'll take you through some of the themes we've heard from those consultations. The first one is that most of the stakeholders supported the faster move. They said, let's just, move faster as compared to the lower speed. We should move faster towards degasifying or electrifying of buildings. A stakeholder said that this gives them ammunition to move away from gas completely. And another stakeholder said that the investors are moving in that direction anyway. So this is something, which was to come. So we should be doing that. Also, we heard that moving to the energy metric is a great idea. This is something which stakeholders have been doing already in their portfolios, and this is how they compare internally in terms of total energy as compared to using emissions or using emission factors. So something which is very aligned with what they're already doing, and they were happy with that as well. I think, maybe missed or sort of quickly moved on to one of the slides. Yeah, this was the other one where we said, okay, these are the two scenarios, and stakeholders said, rip the band-aid off. Let's not do the two changes, just do one change. We heard a lot of it, and many said again the same themes on electrification, that the slower change would start to penalize them for electrifying their assets. If they're already electrifying their assets, they would like to see their rewards for putting in that efforts into their building. So this theme sort of remained quite sort of I would say consistent throughout. So the last one, but not the least, stakeholders also said that it is very important for them to have as much as possible clarity in advance. So they would like to have enough notice period so they are able to sort of put things and plans in place for any updates they have to make for the buildings which are impacted. So this sort of indicated, yes, a fair amount of notice is what stakeholders need, and some sort of clarity would help them. But we would still love to know on what, as an assessor, you would think, and what sort of ideas do you have in mind too. I'll open up a poll in a bit as well, just a couple of questions in the end. But before moving on to that, let me take you through, so what happens from here? So what are we planning next after this consultation and all this work we're doing on updating NABERS energy, so it remains relevant when the grid is decarbonized, when the grids around Australia are decarbonized? So what we will do is we'll continue to sort of consult as much as we can with you, with industry, with stakeholders, or your owners, investors. So we would continue to do that and hear what we should be doing, and sort of align it with what industry wants. This is a very important piece for us, because this tool should remain consistent, and I would say aligned with our objectives when we make this change, and should work for especially assessors, you being the important piece in this whole puzzle. So we will take this then to a national steering committee for approval of a preferred options, likely towards this this year, late 2025. And we will also open up for a consultation paper. So you will also get a chance to make comments on whatever we propose ahead. So you'll get a chance to give your comments as well once the consultation paper is released on the NABERS website. And final approval likely mid next year is what we are hoping. So we are able to give you some certainty. If we are, this is what we've been hearing, that the sooner the better. We know, that works for us if we know what change is coming. So we plan to do somewhere around in 2026 that we can inform you on what is coming for NABERS Energy. Now, I will open up a poll for you, so you can give me your thoughts on which scenario would you prefer. I'm just launching the poll now. Hopefully it's out there. So there are two questions. So which scenario would you prefer for NABERS to adopt? And based on industry preference of scenario 2, which one, would you go with, basically? We would love to know what your thoughts are. There are quite a number of options there. And then the second thing is, when earliest could this change be implemented? Do you think we should do it just now? We should do it next year? Or should we wait a few more years to make this change? So the second question is based on when should we do it? I'll just leave the poll open. Okay, great. That just shows you were hearing what I've been saying. That's very interesting. Just do it already. Very, very interesting. So scenario 2 has been preferred by most of you. I mean, as an assessor, you guys are engine for NABERS, I would say, driving sustainability in the buildings. So we would really love to know your thoughts. As much as an important industry is, I feel assessors become the core of what we do. Okay, awesome. 71% participated. Couple more seconds, maybe I can give. Maybe if you're thinking still and contemplating options. And then I'll end the poll and pass it on to Clemente to take you through 2025 changes, which are right on the corner. Okay, over to you, Clem.
Thank you, Suru. Yeah, that was very interesting seeing the poll results. But let's come back now to today. So this year, 2025, and the changes to be implemented from July. So as Suruchi mentioned, we've made this commitment to update our benchmarks to reflect the evolution of the emission factors, and we do this update every 5 years. And for this year's update, we are using the latest available edition of the NGA factors published by the Commonwealth Government. So what we will do now is go through some examples within the office sector to be able to visualize how this update can impact rating results. And this has been done using our new set of prediction tools, which I mentioned earlier today. So this is your go-to tool to explore and understand, these changes and recreate any kind of scenario you like. So let's start with, we have these kind of three similar buildings that are located in Sydney. So they have about the same location and area and hours, but they do have a different energy profile in the sense of they draw from different energy sources. So we have one 100% electric building, 75% electric building, and 50% electric building. All of them sitting at just below 4.5 stars with the original benchmark result. So this was before our first update in 2021. With this original benchmark, these three buildings were sitting at 4.4, which is an awarded star rating of 4 stars, right? Because results are rounded down. So they were very close to 4.5. And then with the update from 2021, the first update, after that update, if they change nothing, so they still have the same characteristics and same consumption profile, the 100% electric building and the 75% electric building, they do get slightly higher notch upwards, like a slightly higher result than the 50% electric building. And sorry, you can't actually see the 75% electric, which is overlapped with the 100%. So both of them are going upwards a bit more than what the 50% electric building after that first update. Now, with the changes coming in July, with the new update result, the 100% electric building will still get a higher result, so another notch upwards in the star rating result, even higher than the 75% electric building, which will stay at about the same result than it was before, while the 50% electric building is going slightly down. So you can see that this 50% electric building is being kind of penalized by using a bit more on-site fossil fuel than its peers in the same location under the new benchmark update in July. Now we see two more results here. So these are the two scenarios for 2030, scenario 1 and scenario 2, which Suruchi already walked you through. And as you might have heard, these two scenarios for a building in Sydney, New South Wales, they are the same. So the same assumption for New South Wales is being made under these two scenarios. So it's using the energy metric, the one-to-one energy metric under scenario 1 and scenario 2. And now we see that the 100% electric building again gets nudged upwards, while the 75% electric building again stays the same. And the 50% electric building now goes even further down under both scenarios for each one of them. Now, let's move into a slightly different example with a building in Melbourne. Again, we have 100%, 75%, and 50% electric buildings. They were all sitting at, let's say, 3.7, 3.8 before the first update in 2021. And then with the first update in 2021, the 100% electric building got a slight nudge upwards, while the 75% and 50% electric buildings, which again, they are overlapped, in this case, those two, they stay at about the same star rating result. With the new update in July, the 100% electric building again gets a slightly better result, and the 75% electric building again gets a slightly better result this time. This due to the evolution of the electricity emissions, which was significant enough so that the 75% electric building now gets a better result. And again, this is without buildings doing nothing, just if they stay the same consumption, same area, same hours, just by the change of the benchmark, this is how the ratings get impacted. The 50% electric building will stay at about the same result. And with the predicted scenarios, and this time they will be different, scenario 1 and scenario 2 for 2030, because this is a building in Victoria, and it uses different assumptions for scenario 1 and scenario 2 in Victoria. So under scenario 1, the 50% electric building stays again at about the same star rating result, but under scenario 2, it does go up just a bit, and that's because the gas usage variance in Victoria, it's a bit higher, and a 50% electric building, even though it has quite a significant component of on-site fossil fuels use, it's still slightly or about the same average than its peers in Victoria. So this was calculated using the prediction tools, but they actually will show you just the result for one building. So this is, the data input for the prediction tools. So you will enter the building postcode, the hours and the area, as well as the energy consumption for the different energy sources. And what you will see is this table with the different results for each of the different benchmarks. So you'll have the current, or let's 2025 update, but then below that you will also have the rating results for the predicted 2030 scenarios, scenario 1 and scenario 2. And you will also get what the result would have been with the old benchmarks. So the result after the first update, so what would have been the result from, let's say, 2021 to 2025, and then the pre-2021 update, so with the original benchmark. So this is something new. Before, we weren't, in the old prediction tools, we weren't providing the results with the old benchmark, but we've added that so you can kind of have the complete picture of the evolution of the star rating result. And we've also added the RPM there, which refers to the rating progress metric, something that it's also being provided with the new ratings being certified now. So a bit more of granular details now on what the star rating is. And below that table, you will have this simple graph. This is just a chart that, for you to more easily visualize the results and how it evolves between benchmarks. Now, a question we do get quite often is around which ratings will be affected or will be using the new benchmark. And this is, it's important to understand that this is determined by the rating period, not the lodgement date. So let's say we have that vertical line, which symbolizes a date in time. So the 1st of July, 2024. The first scenario, we have this rating with a rating period of 1st of July, 2023 to the 30th of June, 2024. So old rating period, it's lodged on the 20th of October, 2024. Of course, this by now would be a rating that has already been certified. So this scenario is quite straightforward. So yeah, this rating of course would have used that old the old benchmark. Now, under scenario 2, let's say we have a rating with a rating period from 15th of May 2024 to 14th of May 2025, and it's lodged after July this year. So it's lodged on the 15th of July 2025. This rating, even though it was lodged after July, because the rating period is before 1st of July 2024, which is the kind of threshold between which benchmarks each rating will use, it will still be using the old benchmark. And this displays a bit maybe more clearly which ratings will actually use the new benchmark, which are those ratings with a rating period 1st of July 2024 onwards. So in this case, scenario 3, this rating period is 1st of July 2024 to 30th of June 2025. It has been lodged on the same date as the previous scenario, on the 15th of July 2025, but this one will be using the new benchmark because the rating period is 1st of July 2024. So any ratings lodged with a rating period 1st of July 2024 onwards, those are the ones that will be using this new benchmark. Okay, so now jumping to other changes coming in July. This is actually something that happens every year. So we annually update our NGA factors for the reporting emission values that we provide in the rating reports. So these are the values, for the total gas emissions and greenhouse gas intensities that are displayed there. We do this every year. This year, we will be updating the NGA factors for the calculation of these reporting emissions to be using the NGA factors from 2024. We actually have a document in our website which you can download, which explains again, and it uses the same principle I was talking about before for the to understand which ratings will use the new and old benchmark. It's the same for the reporting emissions. So it's based on the rating period. And so, yeah, this document explains that. So if you want to have a closer look, then yeah, feel free to download that from our website. Another update, or again, a reminder that from July, we will be completely phasing out our NABERS Energy with Green Power rating result. This comes as the final step of a decision that was made a few years ago in consultation with industry, as we introduced the renewable energy indicator as an improved tool to communicate and reward the uptake of renewable energy. Green power purchases will still be reflected in the renewable energy indicator. Nothing changes in that sense. The same as other sources of renewable electricity like LGCs and on-site solar. But the rating with green power, which has already been removed from certificates, so we don't provide any more rating certificate for the NABERS Energy with green power result. We phased that out a number of years ago, but we did have some feedback from stakeholders that they needed more time to adapt to this change. So we have been providing this result in the rating report for the last couple of years. Now, from July onwards, we will no longer be calculating this result at all. So it will no longer be provided in the rating report either for ratings certified from July onwards. And finally, also, we are making a slight change to the renewable energy indicator and how we calculate that, not in how we calculate it actually, but in the numbers that are used to calculate the renewable energy indicator. So as you know, we have the renewable power percentage that is used. So yeah, as part of the renewable energy indicator, we also have the jurisdictional renewable power percentage. So we are updating the renewable power percentage to this year's value, as we always do. But we are also updating how we calculate the renewable energy indicator for buildings in the ACT, which is the only jurisdiction that has a JRPP. And this is to better align with the market-based methodology, because the REI, the renewable energy indicator, uses this accounting method as well as the National Greenhouse Accounting Workbook, which aligns with the market-based methodology as well. So the RPP under the renewable electricity target scheme applies to all states and territories in Australia. So all buildings get that by default in the renewable energy indicator. The RPP value is published every year by the Clean Energy Regulator from the Commonwealth Government. And then the ACT, being the only one who has a jurisdictional renewable power percentage target, they surrender LGCs on behalf of consumers within the territory. And this is based on based on these LGCs surrendered. The JRPP for the ACT is of 79.5%. And when you add the RPP to it, you get to about 97%. Now, we understand that the ACT government claims that they provide 100% renewable electricity to the consumers, but this is based on a different methodology. So there's a difference in methodology here because they also include below baseline renewable electricity generation. So the NJ workbook does not account for below baseline generation, and we want to align with this. And basically the change is that buildings in the ACT who currently get 100% renewable electricity by default, now we are correcting that and they will get 97% instead of 100%. Now, of course, buildings are still able to get to 100%. Buildings in the ACT can get to 100% by surrendering more LGCs or purchasing green power to account for the remaining 3% of electricity consumption. They just won't get it automatically. Hope that made sense. Of course, if you have questions on this, feel free to get in touch and send us an email. So that's all the topics we wanted to cover today. We do have some time if there are any questions. Reminding, maybe Mon, is there anything you wanted to cover out before we finish?
Yes. I just wanted to cover a couple of the questions that came through in the chat, and I have provided an answer to them and written about them, but we thought it might be good at the end to just kind of wrap up and talk about a few of the questions that come up. One was about the stakeholders that we've been consulting with, and why we've picked the stakeholders that we've consulted with so far. We have been consulting broadly. We have been going across the sector and talking to people with a small number of buildings or only one, all the way up to a large number of buildings. But we just have been focusing more recently on building owners that are more likely to have buildings that are going to be negatively impacted. So the consultation that Saruchi showed you at the beginning is just the latest piece of consultation that we have been doing, but it doesn't reflect all the consultation that we've been doing across this project. The reason that I say that is because, we include this as part of our consultation. If you have more questions, or if there's someone that you think that we should be speaking to in more detail, then as I said at the beginning, please do reach out and let us know. There were quite a few questions about sort of the validity of NABERS going forward in a world where we are 100% renewables, and questions around whether the electricity grid could cope with the electrification of all buildings occurring. I think that these are sort of joint government challenges to face, and NABERS takes policy direction from our National Steering Committee, and the very clear direction that we have received from the organisations that we work with is that energy efficiency in buildings continues to be a priority and will continue to be a priority into the future, in part because of the if all of the buildings electrify and then we put our vehicles into the grid and so on, there are going to be higher demands on the grid. So energy efficiency will continue to be important. And we have been, sort of directed and asked to make sure that we continue to maintain the relevance of NABERS energy into the future as an energy efficiency tool. So again, happy to talk through that in more detail afterwards, but really interesting to see that commentary come up in the chat as well. We are going to be releasing a consultation paper on this. So we are doing sort of this consultation now, but there will also be a consultation paper, and you will have the opportunity to express views through that process as well in the future. Now, there was one last question here around dynamic power purchasing and adjustment to emissions factors based on changes in electricity source. Great question. So that relates to a topic which has many different names: grid responsiveness of buildings, time of use of energy consumption, energy flexibility, demand response, all of those sorts of things. We are going to start a project looking into that from July, and you will see NABERS come out and do some consultation on that particular project. That is going to be separate to this piece of work that we have presented to you today on just purely energy efficiency of buildings. Again, what we're hearing is that it's still really important to reward energy efficiency of buildings, but that is an important component that we need to consider alongside this piece of work. So expect to hear more from more on that particular topic from us in the coming months. So I think that takes us to the end of time, if I'm not mistaken, Clem. I think I'm getting a
Yes.
thumbs up
That's
there.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
thumbs up. Thumbs up from Ben too. Thank you very much for that. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the commentary that we saw in the chat as well, and engaging in the presentation and what it is that we have to say today. I really appreciate it. I hope, like I said, I hope we've answered all your questions, but if we haven't, please do reach out. I'm more than happy to talk to you more about it. But thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to talking more soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.